What is a dropship? The Mechwarrior Dropship Guide. The basics of dropships and their place in interstellar travel. Though the JumpShip is the rarest and therefore the most critical link in space travel, this vessel would be next to useless without the dropships. Often referred to as the workhorse of the inner sphere, dropships range from under 2,000 tons to 100,000 tons in mass. Except for the largest, all are capable of atmospheric entry. Nearly all modern dropships are powered by tremendous fusion drives. These systems provide thrust by venting off superheated plasma from the vessel's engine core. The high-pressure gases can accelerate these vessels at stunning rates. Most are capable of sustained acceleration of 2 to 3 Gs for a few hours and up to 4 Gs for bursts of a few minutes at a time. Certain military dropships, however, can maintain higher acceleration rates for longer periods. The most notable of these include the mech-carrying Leopard, Union, and Overlord classes. These can generally maintain 2 or 3 Gs for several days and up to 4 Gs for several hours. Most dropships are transport vessels, with a mass divided between engines and cargo. Many are also equipped with armor and weapons to defend themselves and their passengers if necessary. A large military dropship often boasts more firepower than a company of battle tanks. Some dropships, known as assault ships, have little or no space for transporting troops or cargo, but are bristling with weapons intended to hunt down enemy dropships. After a jump ship arrives at the jump point, the dropship it is carrying detach from the docking collars and begin the long trip in system. Depending on the size of the star and other factors, the trip can take hours, days, or even weeks, in the case of large stars. The typical system transit, however, takes a week up to 10 days. Upon arrival in orbit around the target planet, the dropship lands and unloads its cargo, usually well behind friendly lines, as dropships are expensive and can play a vital role in the event of a tactical withdrawal. Dropship designs. There are approximately 100 different dropship designs throughout the inner sphere. These designs range from small military assault ships to gargantuan civilian cargo vessels, and from small passenger liners to large troop transports. There are 2 basic dropship types. All dropships are either spheroid or aerodyne in their design. Spheroids, so named for the distinct round hulls, rely on their fusion drives to provide lift. Aerodynes use wings and an aerodynamic hull shape to provide lift for atmospheric flight. Generally smaller and more maneuverable than spheroids, the aerodyne dropship's wing aircraft-like design makes it ideally suited for atmospheric operations. However, the aerodynamic requirements of aerodynes limit their size and drastically increase the costs of building such a craft. Another disadvantage is that, like aircraft, most aerodynes must land on a long, flat stretch of runway. This requires prepared surfaces to land and lift off safely, making the aerodyne more dependent on pre-landing support and preparation. This also makes the aerodyne dropships less versatile than spheroids. However, many combat dropships have adopted this design because of a higher degree of maneuverability. Their specialized hulls and their structures make them incredibly graceful while in atmosphere. And in combat, high-thrust maneuvering and atmospheric flight, the ship uses a separate maneuver drive system. While these are usually not oriented for use at long range, they can provide a very quick acceleration for several hours, and this is a tremendous advantage in combat. The second category is composed of ships incapable of aerodynamic flight, that must rely on the force of their drive thrust to keep them afloat. This group is called spheroids, as already mentioned, referring to the spherical shape of these ships. Having a simpler hull design than aerodynes, spheroid dropships are much easier and cheaper to construct. The simplicity and sturdiness of spheroid hull design also allows the construction of much larger dropships and at much lower cost. The largest spheroid currently in production, the Behemoth, masses 100,000 tons, whereas the largest Aerodyne only masses 70.4 thousand tons. Spheroids maintain altitude by employing their fusion engine core drives against the gravitational pull of a planet. Unlike Aerodynes, spheroids have only one drive system, usually referred as the ship's interplanetary drive system, which is used for both space travel and atmospheric maneuvering. In either case, this drive is roughly equivalent to the Aerodyne's maneuver drive. Therefore, spheroid dropships can maneuver at high Gs with significantly less preparation time than Aerodynes, in most cases between 30 seconds to a minute after alerting the crew and passengers. The positioning of a drive at the ship's bottom, as well as the shape of a hull, allows spheroids to take off, hover, and land vertically. The capability of vertical takeoff and landing is probably the spheroid's greatest asset. The ship can land in difficult-to-reach locations and heavy terrain. It does not need a large flat surface on which to land. Instead, it needs just enough room to set down. It gives the spheroid dropship enormous versatility, but also makes it vulnerable. Because the drive thrust provides direct lift in the atmosphere, steering is accomplished through a complex system of control thrusters mounted on the ship's hull. Any damage to these thrusters can severely impair the craft's handling. The largest mech transport, the Overlord-class dropship, can deposit a battalion of mechs directly onto a battlefield under almost any conditions. Because dropships have now faster-than-light (FTL) capabilities, they rely completely on JumpShips to get from one star system to another. They accomplish this by hitching a ride on a JumpShip, usually for a moderate fee. The JumpShip's main function, therefore, is to carry dropships from system to system, where they drop them off, hence the name dropship. Although dropships are the most important space vehicles within the sphere, small craft can perform many operations better than dropships can. Small craft are aerospace vehicles massing less than 200 tons and primarily used to carry passengers or cargo. Most small craft are aerodynamic and thus capable of atmospheric flight, just like Aerodyne dropships. As few such crafts possess the capability to hover, most vehicles need a prepared landing strip to land safely, with a few exceptions. Small craft are not designed for combat and are equipped with only one or two small weapons. From shuttle to dropship, the history of dropships. The term dropship was first used in the 22nd century to describe the huge cargo-carrying and fusion-powered shuttles transported by the relatively primitive JumpShips of the era. The design of the JumpShip would not allow them to withstand the stress of entering a planetary atmosphere. The vessels thus required the assistance of smaller, conventionally powered space vehicles to load and unload their cargo. While originally called shuttles, these craft were quite different from traditional ones, whose cargo capacities rarely exceeded 100 tons. The newer shuttles were enormous in comparison. They could carry very large loads of cargo in few trips, while it would have taken standard shuttles far longer to do the same work. As JumpShip and dropship technology advanced, the nature of both vehicles changed. In time, the crews of these newer shuttles had nicknamed the vessels dropships. The term did not become official until well into the 25th century, however. By this time, the JumpShip had metamorphosed from a multi-purpose space vehicle to an interstellar transport with little interplanetary capability. It was designed primarily to transport a number of non-FTL drive-equipped interplanetary space vehicles from one star system to another. These vessels would attach themselves to docking collars and the JumpShip's hull, rather than inside its cargo bays. These dropships, considerably more versatile and sophisticated vessels than the huge cargo shuttles that replaced, would drop free of the JumpShip's docking collars upon arrival at their destination. The term shuttle remained in use applied to a small craft with cargo capacity of 100 tons or less, carried inside dropships and jumpships. The Terran registry records more than 250 different dropship designs, many of which have long been obsolete. Approximately 100 different models remain in service throughout the inner sphere, ranging from small attack craft to huge cargo transports. 20 designs make up the majority of ships in service, grouped into the following 6 classes: troop carriers, battle mech carriers, fighter carriers, assault ships, cargo carriers, and passenger liners. Dropship production has also suffered greatly from the ravages of war. Whereas at one time thousands of dropships were produced annually, later only about 30 to 45 come out of the new remaining construction facilities. Even so, the number of dropships still operating in the inner sphere has held fairly steady and is still estimated at about 25,000 vessels, of both civilian and military types. While this may seem a large number, the figure does not reflect the operational status of these vessels. Many are very old and have parts that are no longer serviceable. Just as the Kearny-Fuchida drive is a critical component of the JumpShip, the dropship's critical component is the engine core and power plant. These units are still in moderate supply. A large number are constructed annually, and old Star League stockpiles provide the rest. In recent years, dropships have become prime battle targets. Until the clan invasion of the inner sphere, dropships' design had remained virtually unchanged since the Star League era. Modifications to dropships had been fairly common, but these generally compromised electronics and weaponry upgrades rather than basic design modifications. The Grey Death memory core had enabled a few inner sphere manufacturers to produce prototypes of refitted Star League era dropship designs, but only Dynamico Ltd of Havan had any such vessels in production when the clans invaded. The clans themselves regarded dropships as little more than armed transports until the invasion of the inner sphere. Consequently, an assignment to crew such a vessel was not well received by many clan warriors. Shortly after the first clan invaders arrived, a number of inner sphere commanders quickly realized that the insurmountable might of Clan Onyx virtually guaranteed a clan force victory in traditional mech warfare. Soon, these same military leaders began sending their aerospace force to intercept clan dropships in attempts to destroy the clan mechs before they could land. Although these attacks rarely succeeded, they have led clan commanders to reappraise the role of their dropships. As a result, clan dropships have assumed a much more prominent role in battle in recent years. The arrival of the clans and their superior aerospace and Battletech technologies provided the impetus for a new dropship effort in the inner sphere. After an initial rush to field new battle mech designs against the clan hordes, most successor states settled into a phase of long-term planning, which included enhancing their naval capabilities. The design and production of new military dropships and the upgrading of existing designs became a high priority, primarily because these versatile vessels can be used in a number of combat roles. Color, cargo, and weapons. Dropship systems. As a prime example of highly advanced Battletech technology, a dropship has, of course, a wide array of different highly sophisticated systems that enable its functions and allow it to serve in the intended role. The two systems that truly make a dropship are the docking collar and the KFFC boom. As an extremely sturdy device found on all dropships, the docking collar allows a vessel to dock safely and securely with jumpships and other dropships. Directly attached to the dropship's structural framework, it is a complex interlocking structure equipped with a number of coupling devices, allowing the docked vessels to transfer fuel, power, air, coolant, or water. These units are also equipped with a transfer tube for transferring personnel and small pieces of equipment without the need for protective gear. In addition, docking collars are equipped with high security systems to prevent accidental separation of the ships during supply or personal exchange. Docking controls are usually located on the bridge and are protected by an electronic lock to prevent tampering. While the docking collar connects the dropship and JumpShip directly, the KFFC boom does the same in the realm of higher physics. The Kearny-Fuchida field conducting boom, KFFC, is integral to the attachment of the dropship in the interstellar travel. After the dropship has docked, it extends this long antenna-like device into a receptacle near the docking collar of the JumpShip. The purpose of the unit is to ensure that the dropship is contained in the Kearny-Fuchida field during hyperspace jump. Before a JumpShip's hyperdrive is engaged, all docked dropships must be connected via the KFFC boom. If any dropship is not properly attached, the JumpShip cannot jump. Cargo section. Since its main purpose is the transportation of goods and passengers, the dropship has a place to store them during a delivery run. The cargo section is generally spread out through the interior of the hull. This is the largest section aboard most dropships, military or civilian, and takes up anywhere from 30% of a ship's mass to 75% or more on larger vessels. Dropships have numerous types of cargo bays. The composition and layout of the cargo section depends on the nature of the dropship. Civilian ships generally have one or more large cargo bays and may or may not be equipped with a small craft bay or weapons bay. Military vessels always carry weapon bays and cargo bays and may also be equipped with mech, vehicle, or fighter bays as well. All land-capable vessels are also equipped with a heavily reinforced ramp for loading and unloading cargo, ammunition, and supplies. Standard cargo bays store bulk freight, usually supplies or equipment. Each bay contains numerous anchor points for securing cargo, as well as the equipment needed to maneuver the cargo, both in gravity and zero-G. To do this, cargo bays are often equipped with cranes mounted on tracks in the ceiling. Personnel can operate these cranes either with a remote control unit or from a small booth attached to the bay's ceiling or wall. On most civilian craft, a single door in the cargo bay provides access to the outside, while small passageways lead from the bay into the ship. The larger civilian ships, as well as many military craft, have an airlock between the cargo bay and the external door. Mech bays house numerous cubicles for transporting and repairing battle mechs. Mech storage cubicles are large framework enclosures that hold the mech in place during transit. Maintenance and ammunition loading may be performed on a mech while it is secured inside a cubicle. Each cubicle also contains hookups for fuel and oxygen that allow personnel to keep a battle mech combat ready at all times. The fuel lines normally tie directly into the dropship's liquid hydrogen fuel supply. The lines themselves are heavily reinforced hoses equipped with automatic cut-off valves to prevent accidents. Equipped with the same safety features found on the fuel lines, air lines can be directly connected to the mech's liquid oxygen tanks. The power cables are used to power mech systems while the mech's fusion reactor is shut down. In addition, they can provide boost power to start up the mech's power. Tie-down hooks are located on the floor so that a mech under repair can be tied down to prevent drifting during zero-G operations. The open area in each mech bay contains additional repair facilities, as well as a number of anchor points to which a mech can be attached for repair. If a ship is fully loaded, additional battle mechs can ride out the journey attached to the anchor points instead in the cubicles. In addition, most mech bays have an airlock massive enough to allow the ship to drop mechs into combat, either in atmosphere or space. Dropships designed to carry battle mechs are normally equipped with drop, pack, and re-entry kits that allow a mech to be dropped safely from high altitude or low planetary orbit. Each bay also has storage facilities and for spare parts. Like cargo bays, each mech bay has a retraceable ramp for loading and unloading. Most dropships have small craft bays. Typically, a dropship carries one or two shuttlecraft, each stored in a cubicle during transit. In turn, each cubicle may have its own door and operating mechanism, and the shuttlecraft pilots tend to rely on precision flying for launching and recovery. Vessels, designed to carry several fighters or small craft, often group with storage repair cubicles around one or more launch/recovery bays. On these vessels, each storage repair cubicle has facilities similar to a mech bay. Fighter bays have appropriate launch and recovery facilities, and their increased size makes landing much easier for a pilot. The bays have catch nets, huge mesh barriers designed to catch badly damaged or out-of-control fighters and prevent them from impacting the rear wall of the bay. The bulkheads around each bay are thick as the ship's hull, providing additional protection in case of accidents. Access to the rest of the vessel from the craft bay is restricted by a series of airlocks. Most fighter bays cannot be used while a dropship is in atmosphere or on the ground. The majority of fighter bays are designed so that the fighters drop away from a ship moving at a constant speed and direction. Launching craft under any other circumstances is very difficult and recovery impossible. A crane must load and unload each small craft from a dropship on the planet's surface, and each bay has one crane to perform such operations. A dropship flying in atmosphere can launch fighters, but only at great risk. Many pilots call their launch recovery bays flight decks, a term that goes back to the first seaborne carriers used in the 20th century. Technicians and engineers assigned to each bay often refer to themselves as the deck crew, and the officer in charge has the formal title of deck officer. Weapon systems. Most dropships, both combat and civilian, carry weapon bays. Each bay contains Battletech, radar and laser targeting systems, a cooling system, and ammunition feeds for any combination of autocannons, missiles, lasers, and particle projection cannons. Because the ammunition capacity of a weapons bay is quite limited, additional ammo is fed either by self-contained conveyor systems or by the ship's crew. The ship's fire control computer determines the target for each bay, acting under instructions from the vessel's pilot. This system, linked to the ship's main computer and radar array, enables the dropship to engage craft hundreds of kilometers distant while traveling at high speed. Each bay also has a local control circuit, allowing individuals in the gunnery stations situated next to each bay to control their weapons. Because a human gunner cannot easily target a unit more than a few kilometers away, or while traveling at thousands of kilometers per hour, most local controls only come in use if some emergency has shut down the main fire control computer. Within these tiny rooms, one person operates the weapons firing controls, and another handles ammunition feeding systems and cooling system controls. Control systems and crew area. Each dropship has a control room, known as a bridge. The bridge varies in size from ship to ship, from the small functional cockpits of the Leopard and Monarch class dropships to the spacious decks of the Overlord and Mammoth class vessels. Each bridge contains stations for a pilot, a navigator, a communications officer, and a computer/weapons officer. Larger craft might have more than one station for each position, or additional posts for specialized crew members. For example, some vessels have separate weapons and computer officers, and others have bridge stations for a cargo officer, a docking officer, controlling the KF boom and docking collar, a security officer, and a commander. Though the main computer performs many of the major tasks of running the ship, crew members can man their appropriate stations to supervise the computer's performance and to provide manual backup in case of systems failure. By using backup computers, each station can manually operate most of the ship's systems, if necessary. Generally physically isolated from the rest of the ship, the bridge can also isolate other areas by closing the hatches designed to prevent ship-wide depressurization in the event of a hull breach. The bridge also controls the life support systems for each area of a vessel. Bridge officers can use both of these control mechanisms to great advantage if enemy forces board the craft. To prevent enemy forces from taking advantage of these systems in the event of successful boarding, combat dropships and even some civilian vessels position Marines or other appropriately trained personnel at key points throughout the ship. The bridge, the engineering deck, and near any other control system. Military craft also usually place guards at each airlock and in each cargo bay. Close to the bridge is the crew area. This section contains the crew quarters, mess facilities, medical bay, recreation room, life support, and supply storage. The layout of this area varies from ship to ship. Some house the crew in double or even single occupancy rooms. Other vessels, primarily those designed for combat, house the crew in cramped quarters with large shared washrooms. The crew area is usually equipped with a number of escape pods or lifeboat stations. Each pod or boat can allow 4 to 6 persons to escape the ship in an emergency. The engineering systems of dropships consist of the engine core and fusion power plant. These systems provide propulsion and energy to the ship. The fusion power plant reprocesses its own byproducts for power and can draw upon storage hydrogen if needed. The engineering system also includes cooling pipes, fuel lines, and plasma ducts. The engineering control center is responsible for managing power routing, cooling systems, drives, and attitude control. It is under constant watch and usually manned by engineers. Access is restricted to authorized personnel. The engine section contains the engine core, power plant, and fuel tanks. It is centrally located on spheroid dropships and occupies the rear deck on airtides. Access to this section is limited due to radiation and heat hazards. The power plant houses the fusion engine that supplies electrical power to ship systems. It is heavily shielded and can be accessed through an access crawlway when shut down. Meanwhile, the fusion core provides propulsion power and backup power for various ship functions. It is heavily shielded and can be accessed through special panels when shut down. The core contains cooling pipes, cables, and fuel lines. The engine allows dropships to travel quickly between worlds by expelling plasma through exhaust nozzles. It can be used for maneuvering, but some craft use chemical thrusters instead. The engine is protected by magnetic shields to steer the vessel and shield the crew from radiation. The drive generates thrust to propel the dropship. They are located at the aft end of the engine core and expel plasma through heavily shielded. Liquid hydrogen fuel is stored in large tanks in the engine section. Dropship use two fuel systems: a heat expansion system for constant fuel supply and a high-speed pump system for rapid changes in thrust. Military vessels usually have both systems for combat maneuverability. Airspace fighters only use the high-speed pump system. Attitude control thrusters change and control the ship's orientation and heading. They can be powered by gas or oxidizing agents combined with hydrogen. Some ships have miniature versions of the main drives for attitude control. Dropship operations. Deep space transit involves traveling from one predetermined point to another, including travel between planets within the same star system. The procedure typically involves constant acceleration towards the destination point, followed by deceleration at the midway point. This minimizes time spent in zero-G, preventing space sickness and aiding in adjusting to a gravitational environment. Routine operations aboard a dropship involve a range of activities. Maintenance duty is crucial to prevent breakdowns and involves teams performing preventive maintenance throughout the ship. Maintenance is an ongoing effort to keep aging components functioning. Special teams perform tasks ranging from light bulb replacements to control panel repairs. For a dropship, repairs are essential as they can be several decades or even centuries old. According to Comstor estimates, the average age of a space vessel is between 25 to 50 years, with civilian ships averaging about 50% higher and military ships averaging about 25% lower than these figures. Avoiding atmospheric operations and active maneuvering helps reduce wear and tear, but regular maintenance, repairs, and component replacements are necessary to keep the vessels operational. Crew members play a crucial role in maintaining and operating the dropship, with well-trained crews ensuring the longevity. During bridge watch duty, The person assigned spends his shift monitoring communications, watching radar scans, and checking on internal systems. The bridge watch is usually a solitary position, and the person given the duty has usually proven to be bright, responsible, and loyal. Anyone caught sleeping on duty, or who has abandoned his post for any reason, is in a great deal of trouble. Bridge watch is important because automatic alarm systems, especially radar systems, are too unreliable. Automatic systems alert the entire crew every time an object is detected, no matter how small. Human judgment is necessary to screen unimportant information and report important information. The last major duty position is security duty. This is normally required aboard ships with larger crews and always required aboard combat vessels. A security team normally consists of 2 persons, each equipped with a flak vest and some type of sidearm. When in enemy-controlled territory, however, security personnel are often equipped with lasers and swords in case of ship-to-ship combat and boarding attempts. Free time aboard the dropship can be challenging as crew members are confined to the ship. To boost morale, captains may allow crew members to organize parties and consume alcohol. Sporting events held in COG setting also provide recreation. Turnover, marking the midway point of the journey, often becomes a cause for celebration. Crew members experience weightlessness during this time. But usually during off hours, crew members engage in recreational activities such as reading, playing board games, or watching vids. When landing or taking off from a planet, dropships can do so vertically or horizontally, depending on the type. Vertical landings and takeoffs require less space, but are more difficult to execute. Horizontal landings require runaways of at least 600 meters, though skilled pilots can manage shorter stretches. Cargo offloading or loading is facilitated by crew members, and sometimes assisted by mechs. Assault, cargo, mech and else. Dropship types. While the underlying construction is quite similar, there is still a wide array of different purposes for these vessels. Besides their class or their type of construction, the most dropships are sorted by their intended use. The majority of dropships can be classified around these mission profiles for which they were originally designed. Cargo ship. The original intent and still most popular task for a dropship is to work as a simple cargo holder. By storing quantities of containers and goods into their cargo bays, they make the interstellar transportation possible and enable trade between different star systems. While not exactly glorious or very exciting, it is nonetheless a vital task that keeps all realms going. Of course, there are also military cargo ships that transport military supplies and equipment to and from the different war zones. Passenger liner. Some classes are specialized for transporting passengers. In a civilian setting, they are called passenger liner. Essentially, there are 2 different approaches for ferrying people between the stars. The dropship can try to cater to an exclusive clientele of VIPs and wealthy individuals that want to travel in the luxury and comfort that they are used to. Or it can substitute class by mass and try to move as many people as possible, in far less pleasant circumstances. Both options are valid and have several dropship classes and variants to choose from. Troop transport. If you want, you can call this a special kind of passenger liner. Troop transports are designed to carry military units to the destination. Usually this includes the vehicles and equipment attached to the formation. Several dropship classes are specialized on a certain kind of unit, like infantry, armored vehicles, or artillery. But there is a strong tendency to prefer dropships that can carry combined arms formations, if they have enough capacity for this task. As military vessels, they are often, but not always, better armored and armed than their civilian cousins. Mech carriers. All mech warriors will deal with this type of dropship. These are dedicated to bring battle mechs into a combat zone. Their capacity ranges from a single light lance to a full assault battalion of mechs. Quite often they will have to perform combat drops, making them extremely likely to see the action from a front row seat, or even become a participant themselves. Then they have to use their own weapons to clear the intended landing zone. While there are plenty of pure mech carriers, combined arms formations again become more and more popular. Fighter carrier or aerospace carrier. These are designed for carrying and supporting aerospace fighter operations. Unlike the other transporters, they are transporting other flying vehicles and therefore do not have to touch ground to disembark them. In fact, it is often impossible to do so, as we have learned. In the most cases, these dropships are also heavily armed and supposed to support the aerospace fighters by joining their attack. There are two main scenarios for them. They may be used to fight inside the atmosphere of a planet to gain air dominance, or they are used to attack other dropships in deep space before they can reach their intended target. Assault. This type is a rather drastic departure from the other dropships. Instead of carrying cargo or troops, these ships become attack vessels themselves. To optimize the triad of armor, firepower, and agility, they almost always abandon their carrying capacity completely. If you want, you can think about them as supersized aerospace fighters that are the bane of other aerospace assets. The main objective is to engage and destroy other dropships, fighters and small craft. But thanks to their firepower, they are more than capable to conduct ground attacks and bombing runs against terrestrial enemies as well. Pocket warships. This is the latest and possibly most powerful type of dropship. They are created following the clan invasion, when the foolish rulers of the inner sphere learned that warships and blackwater navies were indeed important. The pocket warship tries to put the firepower of a true warship into the package of a non-jump capable assault dropship, most often by equipping it with capital missile launchers, or later by using sub-capital lasers and cannons. In addition to a huge arsenal of conventional sized weapons, of course. Much of the technology used in their creation comes from the cunning and brilliant engineers and technicians employed by the Word of Blake. But this type of dropship has not disappeared from the sphere, even decades after the valiant last stand of these noble souls. From the impressive military designs to the versatile transport vessels, dropships come in all shapes and sizes. Equipped with powerful fusion drives, these vessels can sustain high acceleration rates, making space travel efficient and relatively swift. Whether it's the Aerodyne or Sphere designs, dropships offer unique capabilities, each with its own advantages and limitations. With approximately 100 different designs across the inner sphere, dropships play a vital role in military operations, cargo transport and passenger travel. Although the production of dropships has declined due to the ravages of war, their operational presence remains significant. There is a long historical evolution of dropships, from the origin as cargo-carrying shuttles to the current sophisticated forms, with a renewed focus on enhancing dropship capabilities, leading to the development of new military designs and the upgrading of existing ones. Many may dream about piloting a battle mech. Aerofighters prowl the skies and JumpShips are marvels of technology. But from all pieces of Battletech, it is the dropship that truly brings it all together. Since the days of the Star League, and maybe even before, they are the true face of space travel.